these definitions of heaven, there is one thing which is common. That those heavens they talk about is going to have eternal happiness, eternal peace, the eternal contentment. It is not momentary. So that is a promise of heaven. So this is the key difference we need to understand. I can be happy and peaceful and content only for a while on this earth when I do certain things, when something happens to me. But what the religions are promising us is the heaven which has all these things forever. There is no end to it. We are always happy. Not only this, those heavens promises us many other things. I'm going to give a few examples from different religions. Some of them say the heaven where you are going to live, and of course there is also a condition. Some of them say that you can reach those heavens only after you die. So it's always in the future. The heavens are in the future. When you end your life on this earth, you will reach to that place which is going to be in the future. So the condition has to be you have to die. I think no one wants to die to get to that heaven, at least for now. We want to experience the same heaven here on this earth. In those heavens, sometimes they describe that you have the roads are paved with gold and you have eternal youth. And sometimes some of these heavens being described as full of food which you can eat forever. And not only this, many different religions describe this in different ways. And then they also talk about the things which you have just mentioned. A place where there is no sorrow, where there is no fear. You don't have to fear about anything. You don't have to fear about losing your life. There is no death. You're going to live with all your youthfulness. You can enjoy what is given to you all the time. There is no worry of getting old or going to the grave. You are going to live forever with all these luxurious and pleasurable things around you all the time. So that is a promise which the religions give us. There's nothing wrong with us. We need to have some meaning, and the religions promise us that yes, there is something, a better state where we can all go to, and that is being promised. In other words, this is the hope. They give us the hope that tomorrow is going to be better than today. So that simply means today I'm not happy. So you want to take to that future state of eternal happiness and heaven. These are some of the religions. I'm not covering all the religions, only few of them. I also want to talk about how the Buddhist religion talk about what is heaven and just heaven. I don't want to talk about the hell part of it. I want to share a story, I think, which I have shared with you before. I'm going to repeat it. This is worth repeating. This is a Zen story. In the old days of Japan, there used to be a general. He wanted to learn about the Zen Buddhism. He went and met with a Zen master who lived in a forest, in a monastery, and he wanted to learn from him. This general, who is very powerful, and he has all the luxurious things with him, and he also had a huge ego, arrogance. So he went and met with the Zen master. The question he asked is very simple. Master, can you show me what a hell is, what a heaven is? I want to understand. To this, the master, a wise man, he wanted to teach him what this is all about. So he said to him, even though you look so huge and physically fit and strong, I think you are a fool. So this is what the master told him. And when he heard this, the general got so angry, frustrated, because He didn't expect the master to say such words in front of all of his people. He got offended. As I told you before, he was so arrogant. On hearing this, he pulled out his sword and trying to take the head off this Zen master. At that moment, the master said, "This is hell." Right? That moment when you are furious, when you are angry, when you are not in your own control, when you want to do some harm to others without having no sense of compassion. So that is the state of hell. But the general is not that arrogant or fool. He realized that, oh, this is something I shouldn't have done. He realized that, and then he put the sword back into his, back into where it belonged. So now, as soon as the anger goes away, this is something all of us experienced. When we feel angry, you don't have any control. The body is giving out all the things which are happening because of the hormones in the body. And as soon as that anger goes away, we feel a sense of relaxation. The same thing the general felt. As soon as he kept the sword away, his emotions drained off and he became calm, and then he was relaxed. I was about to do a foolish thing by killing a Zen master. And as soon as he did that, the master said, "This is heaven." This is exactly his heaven. I'm no more arrogant. I no more have this huge ego. I understood what the reality is. I understood I have to use the other mind, a thinking part of my mind. I'm having control over the emotions. I'm relaxed. This is heaven. I've told this story before, and this is worth mentioning here. In Buddhist scriptures, there are few things they talk about what a heaven is. Buddha himself mentioned the heaven. I have been searching for this heaven while I was meditating. I was searching for where the hell is. I went to the ends of the earth, ends of this universe, through my meditation, trying to find where this heaven is. I couldn't find it. I went both directions, all different directions. I couldn't find it. But I found people who are in hell. I also found people who are in heaven. He was talking about the states of mind of the people. Buddha says, when I go and talk to someone who is having a harmonious heart, a peaceful heart, I can immediately say that he is in the heavens. But on the other hand, somebody who is emotionally upset, who is going through all these emotions, who is not able to have any kind of happiness in his life, who is suffering all the time, that person is in hell. In other words, these are the states of minds. The state of minds gives us the state of being in heaven or in the hell. Which brings us to this conclusion that you don't have to die and wait until you go to the heaven, or wait for some time for you to be resurrected to be in that state of heaven. You can be in heaven right here. At the same time, you can also choose to be in hell right here. Again, you don't have to wait until you die to go and suffer in hell. You can suffer right here. This is our choice. So this is what Buddha talks about. He's not talking about any kind of things you need to do to be in this state. He's not promising something. He simply says, if you are in this state, you can be in a heaven-like state. So he is talking about three things which we're going to cover in detail in the coming classes. The three things you need to do so that you can be in heaven, not after death, right here. You can be in heaven right here. You don't have to wait until you die, and you can be in that heaven all the time. We know many people in the history of our world where they have a very beautiful life all the time. And especially if you are coming from India or the Asian countries, we might heard about all these people who renounced the entire riches and luxury, and still they were in the state of happiness and blissful contentment all the time, regardless of which religion they are coming from. How do they achieve that? This is because they know the secret to being in this state of contentment without having no attachment to what we think as things which are going to bring us happiness. So they knew this regardless of their religious background. There are so many people I can think of, the beautiful stories and how they lived and how they showed us the path to happiness. So we are going to look at those three things in detail. So I'm going to tell you what those things are. And before that, I want to recount a story, which this is a real life story. I want to talk about this now because when we talk about the things that help us to be in the heaven, one of the most important things we need to understand is our way of connecting with the reality. What do I mean by that? Connecting with the reality or connecting with our own awareness. This is lacking in today's world all the time. We are totally disconnected from the world. We are disconnected from our own self. We are disconnected from our own family members. We are not able to connect with the actual reality of this external world. And to begin with, ourselves. How do we connect with the reality? If you remember, when we started with the meditation, that's exactly what we were trying to do. We want to connect with our body first. Most of the time, we are not aware of our own body. The body is there. We don't give a lot of attention to it. It is just going on as long as it can until it becomes sick. Only when the body becomes sick, we give all its attention. But otherwise, if you think about the entire day, we have been using our bodies all the time, either sleeping or in the wakeful state, but we don't give any attention to it. In the meditation, we are bringing that awareness to our body. Now you begin to see there is so many aches, what are the things that's going on in your body, all of the things you become aware of. And therefore, you're not able to sit and meditate. You want to just get up and finish this meditation, right? That's what we feel. Because we are bringing the attention to the body, that is the connection we want to get with the body, the awareness of our own body. This is very, very important. Or most of the times we think that our body is good, we don't have to worry about it. But as soon as you look inside, you know that, oh, this is not the body I wanted to be with. There is so many things going on. This is a connection with your body. In the same way, if we go further, we are not aware of what's going on in our mind, the thoughts, the feelings, the emotions. Most of the times, we indulge in an action just by doing things without thinking. How do we do that? There is some feeling going on with us all the time. When you see a person, there is a feeling. It could be love or hatred or compassion. Based on that feeling, even without thinking, we do certain actions. In the same way, we do harm to others. In other words, we are not connecting with our own mind. We are not aware of our mind. All the thoughts and emotions and feelings that goes on in our mind, we are not aware of it. We just simply do as if we are a robot, a machine. When that happens, this is going to bring us the suffering. Why? We want to think about it. Why there is suffering? Because of my thoughts. Is it that I am having bad thoughts? Regardless of whether a thought is bad or good, when there is something going on in your mind, the thoughts, the feelings, and emotions, with that perception, we are trying to interact with the external world. The world is on its own. We are not able to see what the world is doing. When I say the world, it could be the people around you, the environment, the workplace, anything, the family. So now, when you go with this automated way of doing things without looking at what is really happening outside, when this thinking and the external world comes into contact, there is a clash. That's why we feel all these sorrows. That's why we always have this fear, the suffering. So what is the alternative way of living? When we take away our own emotions and thoughts and feelings, and if we know how to channelize them in the right way, in a harmonious way that doesn't disturb either yourself or the family or the environment, you are connecting with the world. So that is what we want to understand first to get to that state of reality. Going back to the story. So this is a real life story from a Buddhist monk. This happened in the 60s. When this Buddhist monk from a traditional Theravada tradition, so he moved to the US and he wanted to build a monastery. So in the beginning, he had a few friends who wanted to help him set up this monastery. They wanted to do this in West Virginia, in the rural place of West Virginia, because they wanted to continue the forest tradition. They want to have the monastery in the forest so that they can spend their time learning and practicing meditation and all that. So when he began this search for the place, and then they found a place in the beginning itself as soon as they started. The cost of that place is more than $1 million. I'm talking about in the 60s. Million is a huge money at that time. $1 million, and they were offered a place more than 100 acres. 100 acres of land, a forest with more than $1 million. This monk who moved very recently into the US, he had only a few friends. He didn't have the money to do that. So what they did, as with like us, right? There is a goal, I want to achieve it. So went ahead and did a tour of the country in their own car. One of the friends helped him. So they were going around in those parts of the eastern coast of the US, and they said this is the history they have. This is the story he was recounting. He said, after 5,000 miles of driving, he was in his car, right? And not only himself, a few other people with them. 5,000 miles of driving and several months outside. He was just traveling in his car. They ended up with $5,000. The 5,000 miles, $5,000. How can you buy $1 million property for $5,000? So they couldn't do it. So he felt so frustrated. Obviously, the people who were helping him were also frustrated. How come we are not able to raise the money? So here, something we need to understand is the reality. A person who is very new and is trying to slowly build the monastery, this is the reality of that time and the support he is trying to get. And this goes on further. So after a few months, they knew that this is going to be hard, and then they still started searching. At some point, somebody told them that there is another place, but it's not 100 acres, it's just 12 acres. It's a very small place. But would you like to come and see? So he went with this group of people. And as soon as he landed up in that place, that forest, West Virginia, you know that state. It's a beautiful, lots of nature, so some part rural, very rural. So when he went to that forest, he felt this is exactly the place I was looking for. So he was happy with that place because it has all the things what he was looking for to set up a monastery. It was just 12 acres, it is okay. And then They said, how much is going to cost? The person who was selling it said $18,000. So when they came back, and then they want to look at how much money they have, right? He has been trying to raise this money. The first one was $5,000. So he wanted to check how much money he has. So when he checked the balance, it's exactly $18,000. So they bought the property, and then they kept expanding. After that, they added a few more acres. And of course, today it might be a big place. They still have the monastery in West Virginia. They still help people to go on retreat, people like us, as well as monks. It's still a running monastery. The reason why I want to share this story is many of us are in that situation. We want to get to something. We want to achieve something. And we want to go in our own way without having the real understanding of the current situation or the reality. There is no connection with the reality. There is no understanding of the truth. And then we do many things which ends up in frustration. But when you let things go, when you know that what is the reality, what is the truth that is available to you, now everything comes together. So that's what happened to this monk. So therefore, if you want to be in that state of a relaxed, peaceful, happy state, the first thing essential is to have the connection with the reality. In other words, being aware of your own self, and then the world. The world always comes second. Ours is important. We start with ourselves. We have to be selfish, as I used to say in other classes. We have to start with us. You have to start with what is going on inside us. If we are able to change the dynamics of what's going on inside our mind, if things are very clear inside, as soon as you look outside, you know things are much more clearer. When you talk to someone, you can immediately know what this person is asking for. When you work on a project or go to school or do something, you immediately know what needed to be done without the cloud of confusion, because your mind is clear. It starts from here. If you want to fix something outside, fix yourself. That comes from the awareness of our own mind. This is important to understand. If we are not able to have some control over what is going on inside us, there is no way for us to have the perfect peace and contentment outside. We may achieve here and there. You may not have the complete happiness in doing each and everything you do. If we want to be in a place like heaven, whatever you do, whatever you say, whatever you interact with the external world, it should always give us happiness. But what we see here, sometimes there is happiness because at those times we were clear, our mind was in peace. But most of the times it's like being in the hell. So that is what our experience is. So therefore, the heaven is something, a state of mind that requires a few fundamental things to be fulfilled. Once we have that, we are in heaven all the time. Of course, in the beginning, it is going to be difficult. But as you practice more and more, the meditation is an important part of it. We will be in that state. So now, I'm going to go back and share with you what Buddha gave us as 3 things that are essential for us to be in heaven. Please remember, beyond the heaven, there is nirvana, enlightenment, and all those nice things. So this has to be understood as well. If you want to be in the heaven, yes, do these 3 things. But if you want to go beyond that, in addition to these 3 things, what you need is the meditation. The mindfulness meditation is essential to get to that state of enlightenment. Let's not worry about enlightenment for now. Let it come when it comes. let's worry about how can I get to this state of heaven. I want to have a nice life. I want to have a happy life, both for myself and my family. That's most of our goal. We want to get to that state. So what are the things essential? The first one Buddha says is having control over anger. We all get angry all the time. We all get frustrated, just like this Japanese general, right? We get angry all the time. Even though we tend to think we are not angry, we are always angry in many different things that happens to us. You don't have to interact with somebody for a long time to get angry. Even by looking at people around you, people get upset. There is anger. It easily arises in you, right? Look at somebody who is different than you, you get angry. Lots of judgment going on all the time. We always try to bring out all of these complaints a lot. We always complain about other things, what is going on outside. So this becomes a automated response because we are looking at this around in our environment and we pick them up very easily without our own discrimination. We think we are logically thinking, we have an analytical brain and all that, but all these influences coming from outside have an effect on us. So we always tend to do that to others. So the number one, the anger, the small frustrations. We may feel the frustration, and some people are good at not expressing it. Some people just explodes with anger. You know that this person or this woman is angry, but most of the times you won't know. It's not expressed in their face or the words. So we have this anger and frustration. So it is important to have some control over this anger. This is number one thing to be in the state of heaven. You can think about the story again. The heaven is the place where the mind without that state of anger. You can extend this further. We talked about this in our classes. You can extend this to all our emotions. So when you have the control over the emotions, that's when the state of heaven comes to us. This is number one. Number two. Number two is important. We talked about it in more detail just now. Having the connection with the reality is called the truth. We call it as Satya in Sanskrit and Satya in Pali. The truth. What is the truth? What is the reality? We need to have that connection with the reality. To be in that state of reality, you need to have all these control over the emotions and then having the ability to perceive things. That means you need to have more understanding of yourself. Only then you can make the connection with the reality, being aware of that truth. This is number two. This is essential for happiness, right? Our happiness not only depends on our own mind. I can be happy, but let's say my family members are not that happy. If they are in a state of distress and sorrowfulness, do you think I'm going to be happy? So therefore, your happiness is directly connected with all the people around you, whether you like it or not. You may not even live with people, but there is a connection. The environment has an impact. So we need to think of all of that. So this is the second thing which is essential. Having the connection with the reality. How do we connect with that? So we'll talk about that in our later classes. What is the third thing which is essential to be in the state of heaven? It's simply put, it's called sharing. People may simply say this is sharing your wealth or sharing your time for others and all that. I would like to go a little bit deeper. What is sharing? Sharing can also mean I can, let's say like Robin Hood. We all know Robin Hood. So he steals from the rich and gives to the poor. Is that sharing? For the tales, it may be good. For a drama, this is a good thing. But if you think about it, he is causing distress to some people, but whereas bringing happiness to others. I'm not judging him. I'm just simply saying the sharing should be giving you happiness first, the peace, and the contentment first, and then you should give the same thing to others, to everybody. You should not cause any distress to anyone. So therefore, I would like to think that this should be an harmonious sharing. It's not simply sharing. I have some money, I want to give it to somebody who is on the street. So that is not sharing. How can I do this more harmoniously? With a clear thinking that I am not helping by giving money to others. I am not helping when somebody is in distress. I am trying to pull him out of suffering. Even though we may think that that's what we do, some of our religions teaches us that because they look from a very coarse level of understanding. I'm not saying anything wrong with them because that's how many people operate. So it is essential. You give something to somebody, he's going to be happy. With that we give. But when we go a little bit deeper, that sharing has to be not because that you are helping other, it's because of that's what your understanding of reality is. The understanding is the interconnectedness with each and everything. If we have that understanding of this reality, we don't have that right now. That's why we're not able to do that. Once we have to have this understanding and the connection with the reality, whatever you share is going to be of a different quality, and knowing that this is not going to help the other person, and this is simply your understanding of the reality. We share because that is the reality. We want to keep it ourselves. So that is suffering. We can call that as hell. So this is the third thing Buddha talks about. If you want to be in heaven, have control over your anger. If you want to be in the state of heaven, try to connect with the reality as it is, with the truth. And thirdly, you need to have the harmonious way of sharing with others, the selfless sharing. If you have all of this, you are in heaven. Think about it for a second. When I am not having any kind of anger or frustration in my mind, when I'm able to share with others, because I think that is something the reality is showing me, and I'm very happy. When you feel happy, when you want to share something with others, if you notice, if you are very happy, you want to call somebody and tell about this, or you want to tell this to your own family, because that is something, your nature. So let's say I'm able to share that with others, and then when I know how things are going on around the world, right now we have a different reality. If you're able to understand that with no anger and the ability to share, you are in a state of heaven. And you can be in that state of heaven for as long as you want.